This is Coach Lee, and you're listening to The Door Report.
Suck my fucking balls.
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy.
Okay.
Yeah, boy!
Welcome back into The Door Report, and welcome into episode 313 on a lovely Tuesday evening, April 29th, 2025. I am Will Byrum, joined as always by my co-host, Trevor Hulan, aka Hack Squat, Jim Duggan. Here at The Door Report, we are presented by 615 Collectibles. If you're into sports cards or sports memorabilia, check out 615 Collectibles on eBay. You can find them at ebay.com/str/615collectibles, or you can just go to ebay.com and type 615 collectibles in the search bar. Items include NFL team packs, graded cards, individual cards, and more. Shipping is always fast and free. Trevor, I think I'm thrown off because if you're watching on video here
or even listening,
you might notice something different. Me and Trevor have once again upgraded microphones. I think this will be the final upgrade after looking at the price tag and receipt on these. There are no better podcast mics out there.
No.
There are no better laptops. There are no better phones. Outside of getting a full studio board setup, studio-wise, with a full audio mixing board, and having a legitimate producer.
And Spotify giving us millions of dollars.
There is not much more we can do.
Mm-hmm.
This was the final piece. If there are any audio issues from now on, we can't do anything about it. It is truly above our budget. These microphones may have been slightly above our budget, but we're for the people. And now we have a little bit of money because we did sell out just slightly, and we're no longer fully independent, part of the Rivals publisher network. So, Trevor, you're the one that picked up the mics. I'm really hoping they sound beautiful and buttery out there right now.
Well, we did test these for an extensive period of time before the podcast, and in our testing, they did sound buttery and beautiful. And dude, I think it's so nice because, as you said, if you're listening, shout out to Charlie Campbell on Twitter. We're so used to like all these years we had the handheld mics, and so now like our hands are free and we can utilize both hands. So I now brought my laptop down because now I don't have a microphone in one hand. I can use both hands to research and find pertinent information regarding this podcast.
Well, the OGs, the original listeners will remember that I used to have a stand that would fall down all the time. That was like one of the clip-on, screw on the edge when I had a USB mic. That was before we had the XLR to USB cable mic. And now we're fully upgraded at the USB-C mics, supposedly, allegedly, the same microphones Joe Rogan uses, supposedly.
So that's what the guy at Best Buy told me.
We know Best Buy employees.
Well, here's the thing.
Trustworthy.
So the reason I bought these was I originally went to the Best Buy on Charlotte. They were out of podcasting mics. Apparently, podcasting is a hot business right now. Everybody wants to be a podcaster.
We just got in on it.
And so
5 years early.
Everything was out. Like their Blue Yetis were out. Like even the cheap stuff was out. And so I was talking to the guy, and I was like, "Is there another Best Buy within the region that has microphones?" And he's like, "Yes, actually, the one in Brentwood has a Blue Yeti in stock." I was like, perfect. I go down to Brentwood.
I just tested out the mute feature. I ripped a loud burp. We will see if the mute feature worked.
I was waiting. That's why these mics rule. So I go down to Brentwood. I go and I find the Blue Yetis, and they just have one. I'm like, well, this is bad. We need two because there's two of us. They were all out of microphones, except for these two. These were the last two left they had in stock of like this brand. And I was asking the guy about it. He's like, so these are Shure mics. They're MV7s. He goes, they are expensive because, in all honesty, they are the best microphones for podcasting and broadcasting. He's like, this is what Joe Rogan uses. So we were in between a rock and a hard place. So we needed microphones within a short time frame. And they were expensive. And there's all those left. It's like, shit, dude, I guess we got to get them. And so I get back to my car and I Google it. And yeah, like this is actually the microphones that Joe Rogan and a lot of the premier podcasts use. So
we are a premier podcast, so we might as well use the premier equipment.
What I want to do is I just want to do, it sounds so buttery. I just want to do some ASMR in this. Be like,
please no. Tap your fingers on
my fingers.
There's actually nothing that will get me
me
to slide away from a TikToker. I'm an old man, so I watch Instagram Reels, but nothing will get me to slide away quicker than when I see somebody tap fingernails on an item on a reel. I hate
there's
the
somebody
ASMR trend.
just sitting at their desk, and right now it's like 9 a.m. on a Wednesday, and they're just listening to me breathe heavily into my microphone as I'm like, breathe with me. Now feel the tension in your muscles. Relax. Yes. Feel your heart slow down. Breathe in. And out through your mouth. Yeah, feel that tension.
Do we all feel more relaxed? Hack Squad is inside of you right now.
I am in your walls right now.
All right. Well, we have a lot to get to on episode 313. You titled the ticker here, the Blue Chip Pod.
The Blue Chip Pod.
Because Vanderbilt football and Vanderbilt basketball have been hot on the recruiting trail. Vanderbilt basketball in the transfer portal. Vanderbilt football in the all but forgotten high school recruiting landscape has landed 2 big-time 4-star commitments, one a universal composite 4-star across every single site, the other a 4-star on Rivals, a 3-star on some other sites. We will get into that. We also have some NFL draft talk to get to, some premium board questions about football and basketball, and then we have baseball to discuss. Vanderbilt baseball, first pitch will be happening in about 10 minutes against Indiana State.
No, it's already happened.
Oh, what time did it?
They moved it up to 5 p.m.
Okay. Well, first pitch has already happened against Indiana State. But Vanderbilt this past weekend lost to Ole Miss in Oxford in a series. This upcoming weekend, they have number 18 Alabama on the horizon. We will talk a little baseball. But we have a lot to get to in episode 313. Before we get to all that, Trevor, we got to ask you, what's the vibe check? We got to get a score here from you.
We'll get a score right now. So right now in the top of the 4th, Vanderbilt is up on Indiana State 3-0. Vibe check. Baseball pissed me off once again this weekend. I once again sent out a series of tweets saying that it's okay to be upset with Vanderbilt baseball. Some people liked it. Some people didn't. That's just the nature of the business. I am a part of a podcast. I'm part of a message board. I'm here for takes. I give a fiery takes. That's sort of the whole reason I'm here. With that being said, they pissed me off. But the news that we have in basketball and the news that we have in football on the recruiting trail, both in the portal and in the high school landscape, has me absolutely jacked to the tits, dude. I'm not gonna lie, man. I'm jacked to the tits. I hope they didn't come through very hard on these new microphones. I should probably.
It's got some good audio leveling and mixing.
Lower my voice. But overall, I'm going to go a 6.9.
Hashtag nice.
Nice.
6.9, probably lowering that score has to be baseball because everything else on every other horizon would be a pretty high score. So baseball is lowering that significantly for Trevor. But before we get into all that I discussed before in segment 1 and 2, we are now a part of the Rivals Publisher Network. Visit thedoreport.com or vanderbilt.rivals.com today and subscribe to a monthly or annual premium subscription and support TDR. Use code DOORREPORT, all capital letters, no spaces, for a 30-day, no-risk free trial. Also, don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at The Door Report. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Our podcast is available on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, and Google Podcasts. And while you're at it, give our podcast 5 stars and review on iTunes. It's now time for segment 1.
Doors by 90, baby.
Welcome back into episode 313 of The Door Report. First, Trevor, we are going to get into the little bit of basketball news that we have. Vanderbilt basketball picked up a huge commit. This might be a little controversial. I think the biggest commit so far of this recruiting cycle. I don't know. That's questionable. But
I don't think that's a hot take.
But Tyler Harris, Washington transfer, forward guard. I don't know. He's kind of a tweener.
He's gonna be your 2 wing.
Yeah, he's a stretch guy, 6'8". I've got his stats pulled up here. The one stat that I don't need to look up because it stuck out in my brain immediately when looking at his stats from 2024, 2025, Tyler Harris shot 49.5% from the 3-point line during last season. I just 49.5%.
Averaging 3-3-pointers a game.
He also averaged total 11.8 points per game, 49.2% from the field as a whole, and 5 rebounds per game. A huge pickup and fills another need for this Vanderbilt roster, a scorer. They needed more scoring. They got more scoring. They needed more size and length. They got more size and length. Mark Byington, and there was an article, I don't remember what I read it on, but somebody was saying that Mark Byington in this cycle again continues not to go after necessarily the best players or the highest rated players in the portal, but pursue players that fit his system and fit exactly how he wants to play. And this feels like another perfect pickup for the Mark Byington system. Trevor, you wrote an article about Tyler Harris, breaking down his shooting and what he brings to the table, especially on the offensive side of the ball. So I'll let you dig into that.
Yeah, and so as Will said, it's just based on his stats alone, you can look at him at face value and determine that he is a highly efficient scorer. I wanted to break that down a little bit more to give Vanderbilt fans even more of an insight as to how efficient of a scorer he is. So there's an advanced analytic in basketball called EFG percentage, efficient field goal percentage. And basically what this does is it's an advanced statistic that adjusts a player's field goal percentage to account for the added value of a 3-pointer compared to a 2-pointer. And so as I break this down, I'm just going to give you a little bit of a tidbit. In layman's terms, this is going to show that Tyler Harris is an incredibly efficient scorer. For context, a good EFG percentage in the NBA is 51% and above. Tyler Harris has a percentage of 57.9. So very, very incredibly efficient score. In terms of NBA players, Jaylen Brown, star for the Boston Celtics, has an EFG percentage of 57.8%. So Tyler Harris has a slight bump. And Jaylen Brown is regarded as a very, very high quality shooter and scorer for the Boston Celtics. So everything, whenever you look at not just the advanced analytics, but just your regular points per game, field goal percentage, 3-point shooting, Tyler Harris is a scorer. And I agree that you want to emphasize the scoring. I think something that we're sleeping on a little bit is that 5 boards a game. For a team that got absolutely killed on the boards a lot last year, to bring in a guy that can score and can stretch the floor but can also clean up the glass, that's a huge addition for Vanderbilt.
Yeah. I mean, he's not necessarily the go-to scorer I talked about last episode Vanderbilt needed exactly, but I think they've added enough scoring options that they don't have to have a singular key guy to go to. They're going to have go-to guys. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of new additions to this roster, but I don't think they have a quote-unquote direct replacement for Jason Edwards this year. They kind of do have a direct replacement for A.J. Hogarth, to be honest. And
it's Frankie Collins, yeah.
They have direct replacements across the board at center. You saw that maybe better size than what they had last year, replacing Kajani Wright, who obviously didn't play, and Jalen Carey. You maintained Devin McLaughlin. I look at this roster right now, and what do they have? 1 or 2 scholarships remaining?
They have 2 scholarships at this moment.
2 scholarships remaining. I don't think any of the guys they bring in are going to be groundbreaking, season-changing players. These are likely going to be depth pieces. We'll see if we even really see them, but a couple scholarships remaining.
Yeah.
This roster is pretty much in place. Right now, looking at this roster, my expectations, and a lot of this is tied to the fact of what we saw last season, but my expectations are higher than last year. My expectations, the talent they have, I'm shooting for an 8 or 9 seed this upcoming season. There's a lot to evaluate, when it comes to looking at next season. A lot we will do throughout the summer, throughout the fall. But right now, this team, I think, is upgraded overall across the board.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, looking forward to next season already. Shout out to the message board. GLH4VU already posted, I believe it was him, somebody on the board already posted that Joe Lunardi has his way too early bracketology predictions. And as of things stand right now, Joe Lunardi has Vanderbilt slated at, I believe, an 8 seed. Then again, it's April of 2025. We still have a long ways to go. But as of right now, Joe Lunardi has them projected as an 8 seed. It was Door 5674. I apologize.
Sorry, I'm reading through the message board questions to make sure we don't have any basketball questions here. I don't think. Oh, yep, we do have one basketball question at least. So we will get to message board questions. But yeah, I think that's all I want. We don't need to get detailed in basketball. There's so much to get through here, and a lot of good news early on the recruiting front. They didn't get a couple guys that Vanderbilt fans had targeted. I keep mentioning Honor Huff because I think if Vanderbilt had signed Honor Huff, everything would be hunky dory in Doorland. I think the casual Vanderbilt fan, if they had signed Honor Huff, would just be like, yep, you got your Jason Edwards replacement. You upgraded at other spots. This team's just going to be better next year. And I think now it's a slight bit more complicated because the team's makeup is just going to be slightly different than it was last year. It's not going to be quite the same identity. It's still going to be Mark Byington. It's still going to be the same style of offense, but you have different components making up the roster now than you really did last year.
Yeah. I'll say for the record, I would rather have Tyler Harris over Honor Huff at the two wings simply because you need that size. Yeah. You don't need to go out and pay it 1.5, 1.4 million for another 5'10" cat.
Yeah, it's just
you know what I'm saying?
It's just a different style of play. Honor Huff is that volume score go-to guy. He's gonna score, but he's also gonna need 12 to 15 shots per game. Tyler Harris is an efficient scorer. He's not necessarily the guy that you go to every single night. He's gonna get you at minimum 10 points. That's not necessarily Tyler Harris. That's what Jason Edwards was. If he didn't score 10 points, you're like, what the hell? This is it was a story.
Yeah.
If Edwards didn't get in double digits. They don't really have anybody like that on the roster this season. That's the difference. Jason Edwards, even on an off night, Jason Edwards scored 11. They don't really have that this season. That's where it's going to be a little different. We have one basketball question. Maybe this is basketball. Oh, speaking of the heresies, as he has some previous questions we will get to in football and baseball, I don't know how to make that name plural. I hate the English language. Tyler Harris for basketball, also huge. Where we stand now, give me your projected starters, but also a lineup for when we need a bucket and a lineup for when we need a stop. And like I said, better mics should mean worse language. So fuck the Vols. There you go.
Tennessee.
I read that out loud for you, even though you put asterisks. Yeah. So
no, Rivals automatically does that.
Oh, does it really? I didn't know that. Yeah. All right. Projected starting lineup, Trevor.
That's a great question.
I'll send it to you first.
Okay.
That seems tough.
I'll go at the 1. It's going to be Frankie Collins.
Yep.
At the 2, it's going to be Tyler Harris. At the 3, it's going to be Tyler Nickel.
Yep.
At the 4, it's going to be Devin McLaughlin.
Yep.
At the 5, this is where it gets a bit hairy.
I can't remember the names of the 2 centers they got committed.
I have it right here. Jalen Washington and Mason Nicholson. I think probably it's a coin toss. I'll say that Washington is going to be your starting 5. I think that's going to be your starting 5. And the second portion was a rotation or
who would be the lineup for when you need a bucket?
Ooh, okay. Damn, that's a really good question too. I'd go Frankie Collins at the 1. I would go Harris at the 2. I'd still go Nickel at the 3. I'd go Glock at the 4. This is where I change it up. If you need a bucket, I'd go AK at the 5.
See, I was gonna
go a little bit smaller.
So I'll mix it. I'll mix it up. If you want to go there's going to be a lot of options. With this team. There's a lot of rotations. If you wanted to go small ball and just pure scoring, I mean, you could have Frankie Collins, Mike James, Tyler Harris, Nickel, and then McLaughlin.
I like that lineup a lot.
Scoring, shooting lineup. Everybody outside of Frankie Collins there can light it up from outside, including McLaughlin. If you needed a little more athleticism but could still run and gun, you put in Washington. This team has a lot of rotations they can use, and the more you look at the pieces that they have picked up, seems dangerous. And you still have Tyler Tanner returning. That's another piece. He's just going to be better coming back next year. If he can improve that primary ball handling, his defense is just going to be a step better, a step quicker, put on a little weight. His basketball roster is good. I'm very encouraged with what I've seen this offseason, especially after the Edwards departure. Some alarm bells started ringing just slightly. Going on to football. We talked about this beforehand. We covered the defensive line transfers and Mason Carter and the guy from SEMO, Jaden Stone. We covered those last episode. Vanderbilt has landed 2 huge high school commits. George Hasiotis, an interior offensive lineman out of Naples, Florida. He had an impressive offer list.
Mm-hmm.
I will pull that up. He's a 4-star on Rivals. To be clear, he was not a 4-star on 24/7 Sports. Had offers in the final running. Florida State had offers from Georgia Tech, Georgia, Illinois, Kentucky, Louisville, Missouri, Notre Dame, Texas A&M, UCF, Virginia Tech. The list goes on. Chose Vanderbilt over all of them, but his shine got a bit stolen by Caden Harris, a cornerback out of Brownsville, Tennessee. Speaking of a lot of high-quality offers, down in that final 5, I believe, was Georgia, Notre Dame, Missouri, and he chose Vanderbilt over all of those. Ranked the 131st national player on Rivals, a top 100 player on 24/7 Sports, and in their composite rankings. Trevor, you pointed this stat out, so I want full credit to go to you. But Caden Harris, the highest rated recruit in the history of Vanderbilt football to commit, according to the 24/7 Sports composite ratings. A hell of a get, a blue chip get, 2 blue chips.
2 blue chips
in back-to-back days. Hell of a start to the 2026 class. You've already got a few other guys that had committed earlier, but these 2 guys are the crystals of your class, and you've already got them committed early in the cycle.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to give a little bit of insight as to Caden Harris. So George was the highest rated recruit for Vanderbilt for like a 36-hour period. And then here comes Caden Harris, who would officially be the highest rated recruit in this Vanderbilt football class. Not just this Vanderbilt football class, is the highest rated recruit in Vanderbilt football history. I will make a note. Caden Harris is the number 5 player in the state of Tennessee. I would not be shocked if come football time, come in the fall, whenever those rankings start to get boosted a little bit based on play, if he's not a top 3, top 2 player in the state of Tennessee. Additionally, I would not be shocked if Caden Harris is the first ever 5-star recruit for Vanderbilt. He's very close as is at a 4-star with a 5.9 ranking on Rivals. As the season comes around and as he gets more and more production, do not be shocked if Caden Harris reaches that 5-star level for our site at Rivals, being Vanderbilt's first ever 5-star high school recruit. Great get. And when we were talking about this before the pod, and I know we've gone on record, and I personally said that high school recruiting is dead for football. Let me rephrase that. And I shouldn't have said that because I wanted to add the caveat. I do think that high school recruiting has taken a massive step back. And I think the way you win college football and college athletics now, I think it's through the portal, first and foremost. So high school recruiting has taken a step back in that. And I think high school recruiting is dead in the terms of you used to get these 2-3-star kids and hopefully turn them into contributing members of the team. You sort of take on these developmental guys. I do think the era of developmental recruiting in college football for high school is dead. I think that's gone.
Yep.
What I don't think is dead is guys that are blue chip kids who are instant impact guys. I think George and I think Caden are instant impact guys. Additionally, look at somebody like Dante Carter. Dante Carter out of high school, instant impact kid. Day 1 against Vatek was making plays. That is still ever important, getting those young kids that could be instant impact kids. Carson Lawrence, I think, is a guy that's going to be that this year. That is not dead. The era of your I hate to say it, and I'm glad he's a Commodore. I think the era of your Linus Zunks are done, to where you take these raw kids and hopefully turn them into something. I think that's over.
Yeah. I mean, and I think football, high school recruiting is still going to contribute more than, let's say, basketball, for example. High school recruiting was already a shell of what it was with the one and done rule in basketball, and it was very odd. Basketball is always different than football. Basketball now is all transfer portal. I brought up the graphic I saw before, but where it showed all the Sweet 16 or Elite 8 teams, and it showed all the starting fives with the logo of the team that the player began their career on. And it was crazy. The only one that all 5 were on that started their career there was Purdue. And other than that, it was like a majority of the team started somewhere else. I don't think it's going to be to that extreme for football. But like what you're saying, I think the days of it's only going to be a few of those developmental 3-stars that are still on your roster as seniors. There's only so many spots, and those guys have to contribute, not instantaneously,
But pretty damn close.
but pretty close. And I think a good example of that is Georgia Corey, class of 2025. literally got on campus this spring, played in the spring game, had a pre-existing injury of some kind, was an older guy coming in, didn't immediately pop, and boom, he's gone. He didn't leave of his own volition. He was told. And then they replaced him and Demarion Thomas with Mason Carter and the transfer from SEMO. That's the way of the road now. That's college athletics.
It's cutthroat.
He was a 3-star guy. That's kind of what we're talking about. But these 4-star top 200 players, top 100 players nationally, these guys will still come in and make an impact as freshmen and sophomores. These guys are still a huge deal to get.
Yeah.
And I think there's been a little bit less coverage on, there's a ton less coverage on high school recruiting in general, but there's been a little bit less hype turned around these guys than there would have been 5 to 10 years ago. And that is because of the transfer portal. Because the average fan, and justifiably so, sees these commitments, and it's so early prior to this actually being official. It used to be the challenge to just get these guys signed and on campus. That used to be the challenge. They commit this early. Oh, man, you got to keep them signed and actually get them on campus.
Yeah.
Well, now you got to get them on campus and keep them on campus. So I think most fans' reactions are like, that's great. Let's see it when we actually see him on the field playing in black and gold on a Saturday. Then I'll be excited about it. I think that's where a lot of people sit with this, but 2 massive gets for Vanderbilt football, cornerstones of that class.
Yeah. Kids that Vanderbilt traditionally has not gotten.
Nope. Absolutely
And
not.
there's more on the way, guys. Subscribe to thedoorreport.com for the insight on that.
There we go. But also, going on the football side of things, we had the NFL draft this past weekend. I was in Knoxville watching Shane Gillis, so I did not get to see a ton of the mid-rounds of the draft, but I saw enough.
What did you think about him singing Rocky Top? How'd that make you feel?
I had to sit there and grit through it. I will say, I said it to my dad. The people inside, what he was doing, actually being in there and hating every second of that, was what he was doing is he had made quite a few jokes at the expense of people living in East Tennessee, talking about, we gonna be down here and we gonna watch some balls. He kept doing that accent repeatedly. And what he was doing was relatively towards the end of the show, trying to get the crowd, because a few had turned slightly, get the whole crowd back on his side. Because he had really hit on making fun of the country fucks out east a lot, like 5 to 10 times at minimum. So it was, if you were a Vol fan, it was really cool, but it was very funny what he was obviously trying to do, which is get the crowd back on his side. But it was cool. I hated it. But we had the NFL draft this last weekend. Vanderbilt snapped a 4-year drought of no players drafted since 2021, when Dayo Odengbo was drafted in the 2nd round, overall pick number 54 by the Indianapolis Colts. Vanderbilt had not had a player selected since then. Long snapper Julian Ashby was happy to snap that streak.
Our boy.
Round 7, pick number 251, Julian Ashby is a Patriot. The New England Patriots, Bill Belichick may be gone, but they're still drafting long snappers in the 7th round. And also, they waived their current long snapper, who is the longest tenured Patriot on the roster. So Julian Ashby will be the long snapper for the Patriots, barring any injury. So congratulations to Julian Ashby. Huge for the program to finally get that stupid goose egg off the board of the last few years. And I don't think, in my opinion, that will be a problem moving forward in years to come, getting players drafted.
No, and we'll say this, close personal friend of the pod, Julian Ashby, insane guy. I remember after the Alabama game, whenever I was storming the field, I think the first player I saw was Julian Ashby, and I just gave him a hug, and he just manhandled me. They treated me like I was a son. Just picked me up and threw me all over the place.
We had big time chest bumps on the field, me and Ashby.
Great guy.
2 other guys that found homes as undrafted free agents, Quincy Skinner Jr. to the Atlanta Falcons, Steven Lasoya to the Carolina Panthers. A couple guys that had hoped to possibly hear their names called / find a free agent deal after the draft. Star safety, CJ Taylor. Still has not found a team. Starting to get worried, Trevor. Starting to get worried.
Yeah, it sucks, man. That's a guy that really, man, gave his all for Vanderbilt. It will go down in the history books, is currently in the history books as one of the greatest Commodores of all time. Truly, I do believe that. Man, you just want a guy like that to get a shot, because you know that if somebody just gave him a chance, he could turn some heads. You know what I'm saying? Like, even with he might be too small. It's like, all right, fine, dude. Somebody give him a shot and just watch him work.
Yeah, he is undersized. So I'll add that caveat. I wrote an article kind of recapping the draft and saying I had no doubt he would find somebody to give him a chance, and I thought he would get called up onto a 53-man roster off a practice squad at some point. He is undersized. I get that. But occasionally undersized safeties have exceptionally succeeded. I'm not saying CJ Taylor is Tyrann Mathieu. I'm not saying he's the Honey Badger, but I'm saying you look at CJ Taylor's production in a defense that was really undermanned in the front seven the majority of the time he was there, undermanned at corner. He was playing in the SEC. The film doesn't lie.
Mm-hmm.
I know he is undersized. I've stood next to him, not in pads. He is undersized. But the production doesn't lie. I'm just shocked he's not at least an invite to camp guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's very surprising to me so far. Stephen Hubbard, also no news on that front for him. He is older, an interior offensive lineman, not necessarily the peak value that teams are really looking for, even though he did play some tackle last year. And then you have DeRicky Wright, your boy DeRicky.
My boy D-Rock.
I know you're seeing him shifting down to linebacker. I think teams are just going to look at his injury history, and there's just no way. And he is a little bit older. So I don't see DeRicky is the one that I would point to and say, I do not expect him to see an undrafted free agent deal. I would expect Hubbard and Taylor to get one, but they have not heard the phone ring, I'm assuming, yet.
Mm-hmm.
So what are your thoughts on those guys? Do you see them landing anywhere? And do you see the guys that did sign in Lasoya and Skinner, do you see them actually making a roster, making a practice squad?
I possibly see Lasoya. I think that, and you've stated this before, I think interior guys get so banged up during camp that you need bodies there. I think Lasoya could make it. I think Quincy Skinner Jr. could make it. I think just on the pure aspect of his body and his build, he's built like a wide receiver, a guy that can get you tough catches. He's somebody that I could see. I think I know DeRicky Wright has injury history. I'm the first person to say it, that there's you can make the argument that DeRicky Wright is made of glass. I totally get that. Am I biased because he's one of my favorite players of all time? Absolutely. But man, dude, 6'4", 230 at linebacker, like, give him a shot, man. Give him a shot. And so I hope all those guys get calls. I think all those guys are great football players. And I think if somebody gives them a chance, I think they could make a roster spot.
DeRicky, to me, feels like a CFL player. That he screams CFL. They have their draft coming up. That's not a slight. Go make six figures playing football in Canada.
Football's football, man.
That's not a slight, but that's what DeRicky Wright screams to me as a CFL player. The other guys, I can see getting invites to OTAs. Getting to the message board questions. All right, let's see what we got. I'm sure there are some football. We had the NFL draft. I'm sure people have questions about that. All right. First from World's Strongest Vandy Fan. I forgot to read names on that original question, but Trev, give me your respective NFL draft. Will and Trev. Give me your respective NFL draft grades for the Eagles and Titans.
Yeah, for the Eagles, I would give them an A-. I think the value that they got Jahad Campbell at in the late first round, he was probably the number one on my board of guys who I wanted the Eagles to get. I was pretty high on Walter Nolan, and then I saw as got closer to the draft, Walter Nolan started to skyrocket on people's boards, and I was like, I don't think they're willing to give up much to get him. Jahad Campbell out of Alabama, I think that's a steal. I absolutely love that pick. I'd give them an A- overall.
Yeah, so the Titans draft, there's so much to say about this, but simply the Titans draft, and Trevor, I think you will 100% agree with me on this. I really like the pick of Gunnar Helm. I really
love that.
Love that.
Love that pick.
Of all of what I'm about to say,
that was
of all the
great
other
pick.
picks, I really liked Gunnar Helm. Liked the value traded via the Seahawks. Liked it. The Titans draft, unlike the Eagles, is going to be evaluatable based on one player. Mm-hmm. The grade is completely based on the performance of Cam Ward. Is there even a point in evaluating the rest of the draft? I mean, yes, they picked up some other guys. But at the end of the day, this draft is going to be remembered by if Cam Ward is a franchise quarterback or not. That's it. I'm on the Cam Ward train right now. I have to have hope. He's not really the quarterback that I'm like the highest I've ever been on a quarterback prospect, but I've bought into the hype train. I think he's going to be successful. The gesture from Warren Moon giving the number one number to Cam Ward is great. it is crazy to me, and it's been pointed out multiple times on social media. Cam Ward is the least talked about number one draft pick ever, I think, especially a quarterback. You can argue that other players have been less talked about number one overall picks, but a lot of those are because they were offensive linemen. And let's be frank, offensive linemen are very important, but it's very boring to talk about and watch film on if you're not an offensive lineman. Cam Ward's a damn quarterback. And you would think they literally, Mel Kiper talked through the selection of Cam Ward number one overall, talking about Shedeur Sanders, who was not selected until the 5th round by the Browns. So it's the entire Titans draft is going to come down to Cam Ward.
How did you feel about the Titans trading back whenever they had an opportunity to get Luther Burden in the 2nd? I thought that was a huge miss.
I really like Luther Burden, so I obviously do not like that.
Yeah.
I really like Luther Burden. I will say they drafted, I believe, 2 other wide receivers, guy out of Florida. They signed Tyler Lockett as a veteran. They've got Calvin Ridley. I would have liked to have Luther Burden, though. Yeah, that's the only. I really like Gunnar Helm. That was a brilliant pick. But it would be nice to add Luther Burden to your young quarterback and his bag of weapons. But I did also like the undrafted free agent signing of Xavier Restrepo. I think that just
Miami.
totally makes sense. His favorite target in college, a slot guy. You don't even have to spend a pick on him. The only reason he fell was because he ran a horrible 40. That's it. Nothing else. No character problems, no drop problems, no work ethic issues, nothing like that. He just ran a bad 40. He ran a 4.8 instead of a 4.6. A 4.6 and he's a mid-round draft pick. A 4.8 and he's undrafted. That's how fickle the NFL draft is. But yeah, I'm gonna give the Titans. That's tough to say. A B+. I don't know. We're gonna know once we see what Cam Ward is.
I'll say too. I think the Eagles got the steal of the draft with Makuba at safety.
Yeah, I haven't even evaluated. I've barely looked at it. It's all about Cam Ward. It's just it's all about Cam Ward.
That safety y'all got out of Penn State, Winston,
Yep.
I like him a lot. I think that was a good pick.
Yeah.
I'm just like, whenever y'all traded out and you could have had Luther Burden, I was watching, I'm like, why are they trading out?
Asking good
It
questions.
seems so obvious. It's like he's right there.
You're asking good questions.
Fringe
Trevor.
round 1 guy.
I'm in agreement. Next part of that was any news on CJ or DeRicky. We just talked about that. No. And then he said, I'm on Trevor's side now. Salvaging game 3 is hollow when you've already lost the series.
Yep, that's baseball. Doesn't matter.
I mean, it is hollow. I'm not arguing that, but it's better than getting swept. I will also argue that by a long shot.
It is. And Vanderbilt, by not getting swept, if they got swept this weekend, that really would have been disastrous. They saved face a little bit, but man, like losing series, you're just like, I don't know. I get it in terms of RPI, but it's like, dude, we as Vanderbilt fans are celebrating like not getting swept. Like, come on.
I don't even know if it's celebrating. You did make the statement you didn't care. And the whole thing I said was, I like winning Sunday series, and it does help your RPI and resume when it comes to selection and seeding time. Over under episodes until someone slams one of the new mics. If one of us slams one of the new mics, the other has full permission to punch the other person as hard as they can in the face. These are not cheap. These will not be slammed.
Yeah, these will not be slammed.
We will pull out the old mics to slam symbolically.
Yes.
We will not
Yes.
slam
Yes.
these
Yes.
mics. These are kind of weighty too. These
could hurt.
These would do some real damage. More football. It says, do you guys think that Clark Lea will use the Shedeur Sanders saga as a teaching moment for his players who have CFP and NFL aspirations? With all the talking Sanders did about Colorado becoming a juggernaut and him being a first-round pick, he has no bowl wins and was a day 3 selection in sad sack Cleveland to show for it.
I think every coach from Pee Wee to the NFL will use the Shedeur Sanders saga as a teaching moment. Every coach at any level of football will use it as a teaching moment.
This is such a layered issue. So there are 2 things the NFL has issues with. There are serious issues. So there will be guys like Tyreek Hill with past histories of domestic assault and things. That's something that will cause your draft stock to plummet. That's obviously very serious and the worst of those. And you can have that debate and discussion. The other thing that NFL teams are very cautious of, and this might be really messy because I'm going to try to get like 28 thoughts into a kind of paragraph here. They're very cautious of a circus and a guy that's main focus is not just football and success on the football field. And Shedeur Sanders, from the moment that he committed to Jackson State, from the moment that Deion Sanders was the head coach there and then came to Colorado, he was branding himself. Legendary. It was social media. It was brand deals. He's got to deal with Gatorade already wrapped up. And there was a clip that's kind of gone viral between Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders of Cam Ward kind of shit talking a lot to Shedeur, but Shedeur saying, we got to make a song. We should make a song. Cam Ward goes, I don't do that, bro. I play football. He was like, yeah, but you don't have any hobbies? And obviously some of this is for camera, but Cam Ward's like, I play football. Football's my hobby. He's got like, you go and Google me, you go and search Cam Ward, it's going to say American football player. And there's a part of Shedeur that it's not a character issue. I think that's where this is being lost. It's like, and people tried to bring race and different things into it. And I'm like, let's not forget that Jameis Winston had sexual assault charges, was on video stealing crab legs, yelled fuck her right in the pussy really loud in the middle of the Florida State, what was it, library or dining hall? And he still went number 1 overall because he was that talented. We talked about this. You can compare it to whatever you want, but Shedeur's talent did not outweigh his baggage. Shedeur's talent, he was not some solidified Caleb Williams level prospect. If Caleb Williams was exactly like Shedeur Sanders, he still would have gone number 1 overall. Shedeur Sanders just wasn't that. He's a good quarterback prospect, not a great quarterback prospect. So he's fungible. There are other guys, Dylan Gabriel. Basically, the Browns just took Shedeur and were like, this is too good a value to pass up in the 5th round. It just was. So yeah, it's a cautionary tale. I mean, and people want to talk about all these other things, but the main issue and concern is a team doesn't want to bring all that baggage into a locker room and immediately have their rookie quarterback, who they're not even 100% sure is going to be the starter after he slid past the 1st round. And all the media attention is immediately going to go away from your veterans, from your key guys on your roster, and it's going to go to Shedeur because he's done that to himself. None of this has been imposed by anybody on the outside. If anything, him and his dad have played into it and played it up. So there is no one to blame except for Shedeur needs to look in the mirror and say he handled this poorly. Mm-hmm. That's it. Teams didn't want to deal with the baggage, the risk-reward scenario. It's my big issue when the Titans elected Isaiah Wilson. That's obviously a different scenario, but he wanted to have a rap career as Big Panda, and they still selected him, and he slid, and he had issues of character problems. That was a slightly different scenario, but there are all of these precedents of players sliding because of outside baggage. I don't know. It is crazy how far he slid. I will say that.
I mean, the most famous incident in recent memory outside of Shedeur is probably Laramie Tunsil whenever the photo of him on draft night came out with a bong mask on, and people were like, there's like letting him slide because he smokes weed. You're like, this is the best tag. This is the best player in the draft. Just somebody take him.
Yeah, and the Shedeur stuff isn't character problems. It's just it's going to be a circus. You saw go look at the Browns' Instagram. And keep in mind, Shedeur Sanders was not only not the Browns' 1st-round pick, he was not their first quarterback they selected in this draft. And go look at their social media right now, and that will tell you every single reason you need to know as to why NFL teams kept letting him slide. Because it's a circus. And now a dysfunctional franchise has invited more dysfunction into it. The Browns have 5 quarterbacks that could be starting next year in that room. Dysfunctional franchise is drawn to dysfunction. So that does not surprise me at all. But yeah, retired his number for some reason.
That was crazy.
Craziest things I've ever
How do
seen.
you retire his and not Eric Bieniemy's?
You retired Shedeur. Now, I will say Travis Hunter got caught up in that.
Travis Hunter deserved it.
Yeah,
he deserved it.
You can argue whatever, but yeah, Travis Hunter, yeah. But that's crazy. I mean, just so much stuff surrounding that. Any more questions about football?
I see one.
Hey, guys, now that the SEC has had a year to figure out how to stop Pavia, do you think that will be a problem for us? Or do you think the offensive coaching staff will come out with some new concepts to keep defenses off balance?
Great question.
I've got a good answer.
I've got a good answer as well. You want to go first?
Sure.
Yeah.
Number one, I don't think you can figure out Pavia. So that would be you saw teams figure out what Vanderbilt was doing on the offensive side of the ball and some of their concepts in the last half of the season. What Diego Pavia does is ungame plannable. You can have a free rusher come and get Diego Pavia. You can spin out of it and find a guy on the other side of the field. What he does, you can't game plan for.
Mhm.
Now, Tim Beck's offense, that's a different discussion. That concerns me slightly. They have not upgraded in an extreme fashion with playmakers. In fact, you could say they might have less playmakers than they had last season on the outside. But what Tim Beck's offense is at the end of the day is running the football down your throat and then play action pass off running the football. There's a lot of eye candy, a lot of option, a lot of read option stuff, a lot of reads on who's crashing and who's not. But Tim Beck's offense is just hard to stop. Like you can have it on film, but it's running the football is hard to stop if a team is good at executing. And so, yes, there is a slight concern of that. You saw it the last half of the year of teams, quote unquote, figuring out the offense a bit. But with a full offseason to kind of re-game plan and readjust, you will see teams figure out Vanderbilt's offense throughout the season. Every team across the country has that happen. But I don't think you can game plan for Pavia. He just is an improviser. If you want to look at an archetype on College Football 25, he's an improviser. Can't stop that.
Yeah, I think too. Just to look at some other players, teams had a off season to try and figure out how to stop Johnny Manziel, and they didn't. In fact, he got better. You can make the argument that his second season he should have won the Heisman. Teams had 3 years to figure out Tim Tebow. They couldn't. So teams will have a year in an offseason to figure out Diego Pavia. I'll argue that they can't. I do agree. He is just that improviser, and some of the things that he does is just simply uncanny, and you can't stop. Additionally, too, I think people will say, oh, well, last year they figured out how to stop and limit Pavia. Like, look at the Tennessee game. It's like, okay, well, he also only had one healthy knee.
Yeah, he was hurt.
We have to look at that context, too, and that whenever Pavia was healthy, you could not stop him. Like, look at the Georgia Tech game. You gave him a month to get healthy and to recover, and you could not stop him. And you had a season's worth of film on that guy. You had a month to prepare for Diego Pavia. They could not stop a healthy Pavia.
And then there's the other side of this offense, which is if the offensive line can hold up and be decent as it was last year, which is a huge question mark. That's not a guarantee that the offensive line is going to be as good as it was last year. Vanderbilt also has a type of player on this offense that they have genuinely, I mean this when I say it, never, ever, ever had a player of this caliber in Eli Stowers. Vanderbilt has the undisputed best player at a skill position in the country. That is Eli Stowers. You can look at PFF. You can look at their grades. You can look at people objectively just rating off the eye test. Eli Stowers is number one. He's the number one tight end on NFL draft boards right now. He's the number one graded on PFF. He's the number one rated. Eli Stowers is unguardable. Safeties and corners can't guard him. He's too big. Linebackers can't stay with him. He's too skilled running routes and too fast.
Yeah.
He's unguardable. So can the receivers on the outside step up? I don't know. They got a three-headed monster in the backfield I'm really excited about. But I don't think the game planning is or being on film is too big of a concern. We have a few more football questions, actually. Any uniform rumors? Looking for that gold jersey in football, Trevor?
None that I'm aware of right now. I will say, too, I don't know if this is public information. I think I can say it. It's not like it's hurting Vanderbilt or hurting anybody. A lot of people last year were like, where's the gold pants? Where's the gold pants? They don't wear the gold pants anymore. And I do get that to an extent. I will say, so the reason Vanderbilt did not wear the gold pants at all last year was the shade of gold that Vanderbilt now has with their pants, to where it's actually their shade of gold and matches the helmet. Nike does not make that shade of gold. So what Vanderbilt has to do, like many other programs, like think of like the Green Bay Packers. They do this in the NFL. They have to go to another company that makes that shade of gold, and then Nike will put their swoosh on it. So the gold pants aren't actually Nike pants. The Packers do this. Like the Packers still wear Reebok jerseys and smack the Nike swoosh on them. So it's pretty common. The players, from what I've been told, do not like the cut of those pants because they're not Nike. They feel different than what they're used to wearing, so they don't wear them. So they like to wear the black and they like to wear the white pants.
Same problem with the gold jerseys,
Same problem with the gold jerseys if they have.
if they exist.
If they exist. Nike does not make that shade of gold. This is not a Vanderbilt issue. This is a Nike. How you are the worldwide leader in sports equipment and you can't make a shade of gold is crazy to me. You have all the ability to.
I wonder if there's some patent or something
Can
on
you
that.
patent
I have
colors?
no
Can
idea.
you trademark colors?
That's a great question.
Maybe so. I don't know.
I don't know. That seems weird
This
to
is,
me.
but don't be like Vanderbilt can't make the right shade of gold. No, this is a Nike issue. And to be honest, I love gold. I wish they'd have gold jerseys. If Vanderbilt switched from Nike to another uniform maker, I would want to kill
Please,
myself.
yeah, please don't.
Nike over, like, I'm a New Balance
It's-
guy in shoes, but like Under Armour and Adidas jerseys in football and basketball and baseball are hideous.
Well, they are hideous, and also all the equipment from every other maker is just lesser. It just is.
Like
Nike's just better.
a t-shirt from fans, like a Nike t-shirt that fans can wear is so much better than an Under Armour t-shirt.
Well, just basketball shoes, not even close.
Yeah, no,
Cleats, not even close.
No, yeah.
Gloves are just as good as anything like Cutter or anything like that. The main thing is basketball shoes. Nike basketball shoes are so superior to Adidas. It is unfathomable.
Like if you're in Under Armour school, all those kids are wearing Steph's.
Oh, it's terrible.
And they look ugly. They objectively, like they look like ugly basketball shoes. As opposed to like if you have guys going out there like in Sabrina's or Kobe's, you're like those are tough looking shoes.
All right, a couple more, or just one more football question says, Caden Harris is a massive get. Who else are we in on? Who could make a splash in the national level?
I'll say this on the pod, but I'll also say, hey, subscribe to thedoreport.com if you're not already subscribed. If you're posting this, GLH4VU, I know that you're already subbed. Joel Wyatt is a Tennessee kid, that athlete for the 2026 class that I've been hearing murmurs about. Very interesting kid, plays wide receiver. Also is somebody that could line up and be an edge rusher. I'm very, very intrigued in him. What I'm being told right now, I posted this to the board, is that historically Tennessee was in the lead. A lot of people still have Tennessee in the lead based on conversations that I have had with insiders. I do not believe that to be the case. I believe as of right now, it is a race between Vanderbilt and LSU and Tennessee in a close but third place. Had a dinner with Vanderbilt last week. Heard it went stellar. In fact, it went so good that he had the dinner with Vanderbilt and the next day tweeted out that he's going to push back his UNC visit. So take that for what it's worth. He's a very, very intriguing prospect. Another guy that if Vanderbilt got him would be an instant impact kid.
That would be a big one at a position that I think a lot of Vanderbilt fans really want to see an instant impact get. Wide receiver. That's still the position that I look at this roster and it's still a giant question mark hanging over the heads of all the players. You have Junior Sherrill, you got Chance Fitzgerald, you have Hudson coming in as a transfer, you got Trey Richardson, but it's not a lot of proven talent. So this is kind of the last question, and then we're going to go to the TDR cocktail break, and then we will go into baseball, as that's your neck of the woods. So let's hope you have a lot to say about baseball. But do you think, we talked about with basketball, that they're going to add 1 to 2 more players, likely not any impact guys? Is there anything with football you see happening in the transfer portal?
I would keep my eye out for Jermichael Carter, a wide receiver from McNeese State. As a lot of people know right now, the top 3 is between Vanderbilt, Oklahoma, and Baylor. I've been trying to get some information onto where he is leaning, but right now Vanderbilt is in that top 3. I think if Vanderbilt could get Jermichael Carter, I think that the woes and the question marks that we have around wide receiver and the wide receiver production for the upcoming season would be washed away. I think Jermichael Carter is the real deal. And so if Vanderbilt could get him, then expectations go from, wow, we are so excited for this football season, to, oh my God, I wish it was the fall already.
That would be a big one. Keep your eye on them. All right, we are going to go to the TDR cocktail break here, and then we are going to talk some Vanderbilt baseball as we have a series to recap that was in Oxford. Didn't exactly go the Commodores' way, so everybody out there, grab yourself a cold one, and we will be right back after the TDR cocktail break. Welcome back from the TDR cocktail break, and welcome back into episode 313 of the Door Report. Time to hit on a little bit of baseball. Trevor, we have some premium board questions, but first we're going to get into just a little bit of a score recap from the past weekend. Vanderbilt went on the road to face number 23 Ole Miss. Did not go that great. Actually, kind of went, if you've been watching Vanderbilt baseball, kind of went exactly how you would expect. Vanderbilt lost game 1 8-3, lost game 2 7-1, and then went on to bounce back on Sunday and win in 7 innings 13-0. Connor Fennell on Sunday had an incredible outing. Complete game shutout, I believe, unless I'm incorrect. Vanderbilt right now is playing Indiana State and is currently leading 4-1 in their final home midweek game of the season. Vanderbilt dropped to number 15 in D1 Baseball's top 25 after the weekend series loss to Ole Miss. But, Trevor, once again, I think the entire weekend can be defined by one word that we have used repeatedly: inconsistency. And specifically inconsistency on the offensive side of things. Vanderbilt put up 3 runs, 1 run, and then an outburst of offense on Sunday with 13 runs. You've openly stated how much you despise when this team decides to save it for Sunday and just try to save the series with the Sunday win, even though that's impossible. But Trevor, you're the baseball guy. How are we feeling after the Sunday series?
I had to double check and make sure my mic was unmuted with these fancy new mics. It's like I've been saying, and it's like I even predicted for this Ole Miss series. I predicted Vanderbilt to lose this series. And traditionally, this is a series that Vanderbilt goes in and usually either gets a sweep or at least a series win. And Vanderbilt just cannot do it on the road. Vanderbilt has been outside of the Georgia series and the Florida series, has been a terrible, absolutely god-awful team outside of Hawkins Field. Just the offensive woes continue, as you stated. They lost 7-1 in that Friday match against Ole Miss. I mean, their pitcher wasn't even that nails. It looked like we couldn't hit a beach ball if it was thrown at us. Or that was a Saturday game. I apologize. Friday, 8-3. Once again, offensive woes just continue. I think the only thing that gives me hope from what I saw from this series is that Connor Fennell. It's like we said, Vanderbilt pitching is elite this year, but it's like, where is your David Price? Where is your Carson Fulmer? Where is your Sonny Gray, your Kumar Rocker, your Jack Leiter? I think that Connor Fennell is going to be that next guy. What Connor Fennell has been doing is absolutely insane, and is honestly maybe the only thing that gives me, how do I want to say this? He is the only thing about Vanderbilt baseball right now that excites me, is Connor Fennell. I mean,
Riley Nelson gets me going.
Nelson gets me going. He's good at the plate, batting 370 right now. I think Jacob Humphrey on the base paths and his speed is something that's also been very, very exciting as well. Connor Fennell has been absolute nails. Just to give you a little bit,
the baby face killer, dude.
He's a dog. 5-0 in his starts right now, pitching 238 and 12 appearances, shutouts 1, innings pitched. He is at 34, 21 hits, 9 runs. Connor Fennell has only given up 9 runs, 63 strikeouts. I mean, this kid is absolute nails. I think whenever you look at the traditional Vandy pitchers, Kyle Wright, Sonny Gray, these type of guys, Connor Fennell is the next in line. I believe somebody asked, "Oh, you're going to it." I already looked at it. I'll swing it to you then, because I got thoughts on that.
Well, I was just going to say that I have some thoughts on baseball as well and some stuff we talked about before the pod, but I don't want to sound like we're rushing, but our roommate Alex does need to cook dinner, and our studio is directly across from the kitchen in our beautiful, glorious studio. So we're going to try to run through these relatively quickly.
Go get some DoorDash, Alex.
Yeah.
I'm just playing.
He goes, here's the question you were talking about. It said, should Fennell be throwing game 2?
Yes. I saw that now that I actually have free hands and can use a computer on the podcast. I saw that. Absolutely, Connor Fennell should be your game 2 guy. I'm sick and tired of him getting thrown out there on Sundays. You need to win series, especially this late in the season, with things starting to ramp up and you're really looking forward to postseason play. The bats aren't getting it done Friday, Saturday, or Thursday, Friday. So you're going to need a guy that can go out there and be nails and pray to God that he can hold the opposing offense and then that your offense can get something going. You can maybe win a ball game 3-2. Connor Fennell is that guy. Connor Fennell needs to be the Saturday starter. I cannot say enough glowing things about him. He has an insane whip. The way he throws and has command with his fastball and the control he has with his breaking ball is truly like outstanding stuff. Like what you're seeing from Connor Fennell right now, this kid's going to be a first-round pick. He's going to be a first-round pick in the Major League Baseball draft, and he needs to not be the Sunday guy. Whenever you need to win series, you need to capitalize on those first 2 games. You need Connor Fennell as your Sunday guy. Or Saturday guy, I apologize.
And then kind of same person, touching on what we're saying, where do we get some bipolar meds for the entire baseball team?
Yeah. So I know a couple of good psychiatrists. According to the APA ethical guidelines, I don't believe we could give you or a team bipolar medication. Yeah. So
we got to do something about the roller coaster they're on, because that's the gist of it. It's you know what you have with Vanderbilt baseball at this point. Now they can do a lot with where they're going to finish, if they're going to be a national seed. All of that can change in these final 3 weekend series in the Battle of the Barrel. But you kind of know what Vanderbilt is offensively at this point and what the issues are going to be in postseason play. You knew it beforehand. They just don't have enough consistent power. They don't have enough consistent bats in general. And that's where we're sitting. That's pretty much it for baseball. I mean, it's just an up and down. They've got number 18 Alabama at home. I predict a series win 2-1. Trevor, what are you predicting?
God. It's on the road, isn't it?
No.
It's home.
Alabama's home.
It's home, yeah, and then Tennessee's on the road. I'm going to go a series win. I'll go 2-1 since it's at home.
Both going series win 2-1 because it is in the friendly confines of Hawkins Field. There was one other football question we missed. Baseball is just the same shit, different toilet. So it's like I want to talk about it, but it's like they swept Georgia and then they lose to MTSU and then they go down to Ole Miss and the offense looks horrible for 2 games. They lose the series and they come out and put up 13 runs and it's a hit parade. It's the same story from baseball over and over and over. I don't think they have the consistency to make a postseason run, but I think they've set themselves up to be a host.
And two, just going back to the offense, it's so frustrating because, like, I get it. RJ Austin has been on a slide, but he is. I love Brody Johnston. I love Jacob Humphrey. I love Riley Nelson. RJ Austin is the spark plug for this offense, and he has to be. And RJ Austin just has not been that guy this year. He's RJ Austin. I don't know if there's something going on behind the scenes. RJ Austin has been bad. Batting .261. He's slugging .391. That is not going to get it done. Now, I get RJ Austin is not a power hitting guy. RJ Austin will never be a power hitting guy. But his on-base percentage, he's .375. That's not great. Whenever he's on the bases, he is a threat to steal, and he is a threat to cause havoc, and he's going to make the pitchers upset. Whenever he's on the bases, they're going to get paranoid, and he's not getting on base enough. And it's just you look at the power numbers for this team, and it's like you said, man. It's why it's so frustrating. Like, it's same shit, different day. Like Riley Nelson slugging .533, like that's good. But like as you go down the lineup, man, there's like a huge drop off. Like Rustin Rigdon .375, that's good. RJ Austin .391. Mac Rose .324. Jaden Davis .283. Chris Maldonado.
He's not even in the lineup.
He's not even in the lineup. And it's just like, he's a guy that, like, whenever you looked at him, whenever you recruited him, you're like, man, that's going to be an instant impact kid. He's not even in the lineup. He's gotten, like, very little at bats this year. He's not been great. And it's just like, I'm glad that Braden Holcomb might be one of the hottest hitters in America right now. So praise God and thank God for Braden Holcomb. But dudes need to step up. Dudes need to step up. Dudes need to start generating power. Generating power, you're going to win ball games.
There's just enough time. I mean, literally just enough time to change the momentum of this season. 3 weekend series left. I don't want to say none of them are easy because you do have Kentucky at home to close it out, but you're at home against Alabama. Then you go on the road, Battle of the Barrel against number 19 Louisville. Then you travel to Knoxville and take on number 6 Tennessee, and then you close with Kentucky at home. It's not an easy stretch to close it out, but you can really change the trajectory of this season. We will see. It all starts with Indiana State right now, and Vanderbilt, are they still up 4-1?
They are. Yes, sir. Still up
Vanderbilt's
4-1.
Still currently leading 4-1. There was one question.
Bottom 6.
Was one question we missed that was football recruiting related. I want to get all the questions read so we can encourage people to actually ask questions on the board. But last question we'll read from the premium message board said, we know more than anyone how hard it has been to get and keep top-tier guys that commit to Vandy. With this Caden Harris commitment, has it shifted your mind on who we can get, or do you want to see a couple more follow suit first?
I think anytime you can get blue chip kids, that attracts the eyes of other kids that are blue chips that are being recruited by that program, and that says, oh, hey, like, look what's going on over there. They got Caden Harris. Maybe they're building something. Maybe I should listen to these coaching staffs a little bit more. So absolutely, yeah. Those kids talk. Like high school recruits, even if they're not in the same state, like they talk. Best believe it.
Yeah, and all of this is made possible by the waves that Vanderbilt made last year on the field. So step 1 is success on the field. Step 2 is breaking through, getting some of those top-tier blue chip guys that do communicate with each other, add validity to that success. And then the next step to that is continue at least the same success you had last year on the field this season. So you cannot go out this year and lay an egg and have a 3-9, 4-8 year. It can't happen. You at least have to go 6-6. That will do as much or more than literally anything else to landing more of these guys. Just keep winning football games. That's it. It's the same thing with fans and butts in the stands. Vanderbilt and Clark Lea and Barton and Jamal Richardson, I think they have Javon. They have personalities that these guys will like and cling to.
Mm-hmm.
Now you have to show that it can be done here consistently, and these guys will latch on. You'll get your initial guys that will jump on earlier. That's going to be guys like Dante Carter, Lawrence. You could even throw in Harris in there, but the rest of these guys need to see it happen and see it as possible at Vanderbilt. And that's what you can prove this upcoming year. Anything else you want to add on episode 313 here before we close it out, Trevor?
Yeah, I'm so high on Connor Fennell. Before we close it out, I just want to give you all a little bit more in terms of his stats and show you how elite Connor Fennell has been and why he should be the day 2 starter for Vanderbilt. Opponents, their on-base percentage is .223 against Connor Fennell. They're slugging .352, and they have an OPS of .576 when facing Connor Fennell. That is legitimately insane. You would know. Take a guess. What do you think Connor Fennell's strikeout percentage is against opponents?
No idea.
48.1%. He is striking guys out at almost 50%. 50%. Every other batter he faces, he's striking these kids out. His left on base, this is how good he is whenever it's crunch time. Guys on base, he leaves them on base 97.1% of the time. You got a guy in second and third, almost 100% of the time, those guys are not scoring whenever Connor Fennell is on the bump. It's crunch time. Vanderbilt needs to get some momentum. Connor Fennell needs to be your day 2 starter. These stats are insane.
Connor Fennell has been a revelation. Vanderbilt football on the rise in high school recruiting. Vanderbilt basketball's roster is shaping up right in front of our eyes. A lot happening on episode 313. For myself, Will Byrum, and my co-host Trevor Hulan, this has been episode 313 of the Door Report, powered by 615 Collectibles.